Well, welcome to all of you. My best greetings from the University of KU Leuven. I am here together with Professor Wim van Peteggen of the University of KU Leuven, Director of the Teaching and Learning Department of the same university. Um, Best greetings to all the guest people and invited speakers here. And so to Irina Volungevicene from the Kaunas University. Hi Irina, Lithuania. And best greetings to Anna Boaretto from the University of Padova. And of course to Valentina Comba from the University of Bologna. We are waiting from Professor Giovanni Magenes, who is Deputy Rector of ICT Affairs for the University of Pavia. Unfortunately now he is giving a lecture, and he will join us at more or less at 12 o'clock. We are here to discuss a very interesting item for me, that is ICT and the learning in lifelong mobility era. And I think that we together are people involved in this field, and overall, above all, people with a lot of experience in the field, starting from Wim van Peteggen and Irina Volungevicene. Anna and I are involved in European project and mainly and basically Pro-VIP project regarding virtual placement, and Anna Pro-VIP project and VAN Collab project regarding virtual mobility collaboratory. So two European projects funded for searching and teaching news and updating about, generally speaking, virtual mobility. We would like to analyze and to have together a conversation about virtual mobility here, sharing with the Italian people from e-learning society association. We are now in the Congress of the e-learning Italian Association held in Rome. This is the 9th edition of our association. My best greetings to the President Tommaso Minerva and to the board of the association and to the Scientific Council. It is my pleasure now to give the floor to Professor Wim van Peteggen to introduce the topic, because I think that Wim is the best person here to introduce the topic in a, how can I say, with a wide vision about the virtual mobility, because of the importance of the University of KU Leuven in this topic, because I know that it is years in which the University of Leuven is involved in this field with a lot of projects, a lot of conversation and publication and presence in international conferences about virtual mobility. So I would like, and it is my pleasure, that Wim could share with us his experience in the field. So Wim, you have the floor.
Thank you, Elena. Can I have my slides, please? Or how do we proceed there? In the meantime, I can already say that I'm very pleased to get this invitation to address this conference, and especially the colleagues in the web conference, and to talk about a topic in which we are already working for, let's say, 15 years. And it's not only virtual mobility that I would like to address, but I would like to take it in a broader perspective and look at where learning technologies have come from and where we are at this moment with regard to the use of ICT in learning environments at our universities and higher education institutes nowadays. The presentation is coming up, I think. Yes, thank you. I can manipulate it myself. Yeah, okay, good. As title of this presentation, we have chosen ICT as a driver for learning in a lifelong mobility era. I think that there are many aspects here in this title that we could elaborate on, but I will focus on how the new learning technologies have transformed higher education and actually are used to improve the quality of our teaching and learning in a lifelong learning environment for both students, teachers, and society in general. Oops, share my screen. What happened? Can we get the slides back, please? Okay, yeah, thank you. First, I would like to set the scene a bit, the first slide I would like to share with you is that is in cartoon actually that we have had here in our local school university newspaper. And it is illustrating how students nowadays are looking at their education, in the sense that the students themselves are willing to say to teachers, challenge us. This is a quote of people. Sorry. It is a quote of people. Of a student here at our university at the opening of the academic year 2 years ago. Okay, yeah. I'm not sure, but I would to show you the cartoon. Nevertheless, the students in our university were very happy with all the technologies that we have introduced, the infrastructure that we made available for them in the university. But then they were seeing that we were not making full use of the potential of these technologies in terms of making them into learning technologies. And so they reacted on that, and they were addressing the whole, let's say, teaching community in the university by saying, please, first of all, thank you for this technology, but please use that in a way that we can improve the quality of our learning experience. So teachers, challenge us. That was the message those students were giving. And that's not surprising, and now we come to this slide, because students have changed over the years. When I was a student, a professor was still something like a sage on the stage, and we were very respectful for professors. There was someone from another, let's say, world. Nowadays, the characteristics of our students have totally changed, and we can say that between students and teachers has decreased. There is the gap between students and teachers is much smaller now than it was in the past. And our students have other characteristics that were not at stake when I was a student. For instance, they love to use technology in their private lives, and so they expect to use the technology also in their learning experience. They are used to go on Facebook and in the meantime read a book or look at television or do something else with their friends. So they can actually do the multitasking aspect of sorry, I think this is going wrong. I would like to, yeah, this is the slide I would like to show. They also are able to live in an asynchronous world, in an alinear world, in the sense, well, we all know how email is working, how fora are working, and so on. But students can do that in a very smart way. They are very positive too. Yesterday we were showing here in our university the new learning center to people from the Coimbra group of universities. And it was striking to me that this group of people were saying, oh, those students, they take their own responsibility. They know how to behave. They can look for let's say they for instance in the quiet area where they come and study, there is actually no noise in that room. How come those students are behaving so well? Well, I think that is because students can take up their responsibility and know how to deal with it if they are in a position that they really are forced to take up this responsibility. So these are all different characteristics of students that we discovered in the last couple of years. And the reference I would like to make here is a master's thesis in our university about a year and a half ago by one of the students herself, addressing these specific characteristics. But we should keep that in mind if we develop new learning environments, and especially the digital learning environment in our university. Okay, I switch to the next slide, because that means that there is a lot of different types of learning nowadays. If we have to address all those new characteristics of our students, we can no longer just look at face-to-face education. There is a lot more that we should provide. And here is a list of different characteristics, or different learning modes, learning types. E-learning is one of them, but you will see online learning, virtual learning, mobile learning, distance learning. So there is a lot different types of learning. My thing is, and I come back to that later, it's all learning in a way. So either if we are introducing face-to-face learning, or we are introducing online learning, virtual learning, mobile learning, it doesn't matter. For us, the learning technology should be as hidden as possible. It's all learning we are supporting. Okay, next slide. That is one perspective that I would like to bring to you. The other perspective is that the society in which we are living at this moment is changing as well. And here I'm looking at, let's say, a bit the labor market and what society is expecting from our graduate students. In the new times, the new economic era in which we are at this moment, we expect different capacities, different competences of our graduates. And here I listed just a few that I picked from the European Commission. It's more about knowledge rather than just information. It's the capacity to create knowledge, to share knowledge, and to co-construct knowledge. Both students, teachers, and people in practical situations in the labor markets. Which means that we also need to train our students for more generic skills than we did in the past. Skills like, and someone mentioned here, working in teams, problem solving, networking, and you will understand that communication skills are high on the list there. So these are also changing elements that we need to take into account when we are developing our learning systems and when we think about how to introduce technologies, learning technologies in our education. I think I can skip this slide, but for those who want to learn a bit more on how Europe is looking at these things, I can recommend the documentation of the European Commission about Europe 2020, with their 3 types of growth that they would like to realize, and their 7 flagships. And you will see here in the topic of today that education is also has a subtitle, Youth on the Move. So we need to think in which direction our young students are moving, not only in an abstract way, but also in a very practical way. They are moving around Europe, and so how do we really try to support those students? That is also high at stake in the European Commission. Okay. And then a bit more down to earth and to the practical topic of today. We see that technology is changing quite a lot. There is a report by the New Media Consortium, the Horizon report, and they do that for the different levels of education. So there is also one specifically addressing higher education, and there the New Media Consortium is looking at what are the trends in technology that we should look at in the future. And that means technology that will be introduced as learning technologies within less than 1 year. Technology that we can expect to be important in 2-3 years from now, and then technology that we might have a look at in 4 or 5 years from now. This is the report of 2012. You see that mobile applications, tablet computing was something that we should have introduced in 2013, so less than 1 year. I leave it up to you to decide if you have been doing that and if you have been introducing these technologies in your higher education. Certainly there is game-based learning and learning analytics as hypes for the current year, so to say, 2013 and 14, and there is a few other technologies for within 4 or 5 years. They also have a new report for 2013, which has been published I think a couple of months ago, and there you see that the technology that should be introduced in less than 1 year will be MOOCs. It's interesting to see that this was not mentioned in the previous slide yet, and that means that MOOCs are really a hype, which was certainly introduced and subtly introduced, and we all now have to react on that technology. Or maybe not. Is it a hype, or should we indeed jump onto the possibilities of MOOCs and now all of a sudden try to introduce MOOCs in our universities? That's the message I would like to bring here. Is there are people thinking about what kind of technologies should we introduce in the future, but it's up to us to decide if we do something with that technology or not. There is other things that I can say about this, but I would recommend you reading these Horizon reports. You can find them on the website. I should have put the web link here, but if you Google the New Media Consortium, then you will find those reports and can read them. Okay. But maybe this is not the most important aspect. The technology perspective is certainly a perspective we should keep in mind, but I think we should also look at the pedagogical aspects. It's the Open University of the UK that came up with these reports. And it's also a forecast report like the New Media Consortium is doing for technologies. The Open University is doing that for pedagogical didactical models, concepts, and so on. And they also have like a short list of concepts that we should look at in the near future, in a bit longer future, and maybe on the long term. It's interesting to see that if you compare this list with the technology perspective, that there is some overlap. You see the MOOCs appearing here, you see the learning analytics appearing here on this list, but there is more. As you can see, there is also other aspects of learning, and I think you can see learning more on this list than you could have seen on the technology list. But learning is really in the center, and there are new pedagogical ideas, concepts, findings, insights that we could have a look at as an extra perspective when we talk about learning technologies. This is the report of 2012, and just 2 weeks ago, they published the new version, 2013. And strikingly enough, we see that still MOOCs are on the list, still learning analytics are on the list, and there is a few more, like the one that I like myself is crowd learning. If these reports have their value, I think, for us, if we talk about how do we deal with new technologies, how can we use these technologies for improving teaching and learning. I just invite you to have a look at them. These are very short reports, so it's easy to master them and to introduce that in your daily work, daily practice, so to say. Okay. I think that this is the short introduction, the different perspectives that I would like to give. The student has changed, and if you talk about student-centered learning, you should really look at these new characteristics of the student. The environment, society has changed, so we should look and adapt to what their needs are and current needs are. The technology is moving forward quite quickly, and it's difficult to follow, but still there is some, how should I say, you can find in the reports, for instance, by the New Media Consortium, where we are heading to, and last but not least, also our pedagogical and didactical insights are changing, and we could use, for instance, the reports by the Open University to have a look at which pedagogical insights we should look in the near future. Having set the scene now, I would like to spark some discussion by formulating a few statements that I would like to share with you. And it's a personal view on some of these aspects that I have been looking at in the last couple of years. My first statement, and I already introduced it a little bit to you, that is that learning in a changing world might lead to different types of learning. I have been showing you a list of different types of learning, but this is not important. We are back to learning, I think. I cannot imagine learning nowadays without an e-learning component. I cannot imagine learning without using mobile devices for the moment. I cannot imagine learning without a distance component in it. So why should we have all those different names for it? It's learning anyway, and that is my statement. I think I have a few more illustrations of this. Oh yeah, it also means that if you look at how you need to implement that new learning in higher education, that we need to be very careful on how we develop our learning, how we look at instructional design, and I on purposely said co-design here in that title, in the title of this slide, because I have been addressing already that the threshold between students and teachers is becoming much lower than it was in the past. So we can consider our learners, our students, as partners in the educational process. And why not involve them in the way that we are designing our learning? Technology allows us to do that in a very smart and in a very comfortable way. So why not have this large university community, both students and teachers all together, developing the learning environment? The technology is helping us in that. We can really see students are challenging us and are asking how can we participate in this process. So why not do that? That is the point that I would like to make in this slide here. I'm referring to a book by Grain Canal, who his colleague Irina knows very well too, I think, in the Eden network, the European Distance and E-Learning Network, who has been editing a book where these kind of principles were put together. I'm not making promotion for her here, but I think that there is interesting literature in that book with regard to how to set up instructional design by using new technologies. Okay, that was my first statement. The second one is if we are changing learning or not, why are our institutions then changing? That is the question I can ask here. We see, for instance, that distance teaching universities, like the Open University, they are introducing more and more aspects of face-to-face on-campus universities in their types of teaching and learning. And vice versa, our traditional universities, like mine, for instance, which is a campus university, and we offer a lot of face-to-face education in our university, but we have a digital learning environment as well. We do some sorts of virtual learning. We do have some distance components in our teaching and learning. So we are moving towards distance universities then. I think that this is not true. Maybe we will end up something in the middle between distance teaching universities and face-to-face on-campus universities. But the starting point will always be different, and where we end up, that will always be a mixed format, let's say, of the different types of universities that are existing nowadays. I think that I'm not sure if the real distance teaching universities, if they will survive. Maybe this is a strong statement here, but I'm very sure that our traditional universities will survive, but probably in a more blended, mixed, hybrid format or whatever. And that is, I think, the new type of universities we should look at. I think that there is still something to learn from a group of students all together with their teachers in a community, a social community, where you can meet face to face, where you can talk and learn together, where you can have a beer together. And that is something we can never translate into virtual components. But certainly we need to have a learning environment in our university that is also based on technology as well. I'm not sure, yeah. Yeah, I can skip these slides. They just illustrate a little bit what kind of universities or what traditional universities are doing nowadays to have a virtual component, or to introduce, in this case, web lectures as one component to make distance education possible. In my own situation, the University of Leuven, we already have that aspect of not being on just one campus, but the connection between different campuses all over Flanders. So there is a lot of virtual things happening there between students in the different locations here on the map. So there is like a very natural implicit way of introducing technologies and digital learning environments just to support the teaching and learning in our association of the university together with the polytechnics. MOOCs is another hype. I don't think I have to elaborate on that, but if you like, I can do that. Maybe just to mention here on this slide that it's not only universities that are in the picture nowadays, but we also see publishers like Pearson, for instance. They are offering their own learning environments too. So if we as universities are evolving, what will be the role of the publishers that are providing us with learning material? Are they also intriguing or in trading our learning environments, or what will be the role of universities and publishers together? That's something we need to be very aware of, I think. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say here on this slide too. ACCO is the university press here. Okay, I see that Giovanni arrived. Welcome.
Hi, yes.
I'm almost finished with my presentation, Giovanni.
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I was just explaining a few statements that might spark some discussion later on, and you are you can follow the last couple of statements.
Yes.
No problem. We just continue if you don't mind.
Okay.
The next statement I would like to make is something that I already mentioned, and that is if we are looking at the learning environment itself, so not just the institutional organization, but the learning environment itself. I personally think that the borders between the physical learning environment, our lecture halls, our seminar rooms, or the private rooms of the students, whatever, that the boundaries with the digital learning environment are broken down, actually. There are no walls in between the physical learning environment and the digital learning environment. We introduce the digital learning environment when we are teaching. I mean, we have flexible collaborative rooms in our university now, where we have all kinds of equipment, where we have the digital learning environment available, and vice versa. We are making web lectures in that digital in our auditoria that we then immediately send to the digital learning environment for the students then to use in their learning experience. So why it's all learning everywhere, and the boundary between the classroom, so to say, and what we do in our online world, there is no boundary anymore, and students already know that. You can see it on the cartoon here. The guy just says that no, there is no difference between what I'm doing in my room here and what I'm doing on the internet. And I think that this is something we need to be aware of very much, because our students expect that to happen, and that we support that. Yeah, and these are just a few examples of where this happens in learning centers nowadays in different universities, where you have physical space available for students, where they can learn together, but where there is also equipment, multimedia equipment, communication equipment that they can use just to the benefit of their learning. Okay, and this is just a cartoon. I love cartoons, but you have seen that already, I think, in my slides. If you have good cartoons, this is just a question. Send them to me. I love to use them in my presentations. But this is a cartoon illustrating the point that I would like to make. Students are using computers in the classroom, and we expect students to take away from what they learned in the classroom and to do something with that on their computers later on when they are studying. Okay, that was my third statement. And the fourth statement is then related to virtual mobility. And that is, we all know Apple and what they are doing with iPhones, iPads, iComputers, iMacs, whatever. So I introduced here the concept of I-learning, and then I have different meanings for the I here. It is, if we look at learning nowadays, the I could mean that we have to introduce international components, intercultural components, intergenerational components, interdisciplinary components. I think that this is very clear to most of us what is behind these words, but technology is, and that is the point here. Technology is making it possible that we introduce this much more than it was in the past. When I was a student, it was very difficult to have an international experience in my studying. The only way was to go to another university. But nowadays, it's so easy to introduce an international aspect in your learning, thanks to the technology. And so, this concept of I-learning is something I really believe in. Then we come to the aspect of virtual mobility to illustrate that point of international learning. This is a definition that we have been using for virtual mobility already quite some time, and actually it's the result of many projects that we did together with many universities in Europe, and Irina will certainly recognize this definition. I think it's also taken over by the European Commission in certain documents. So this is the way that we look at how technology could help us in making students more mobile and let them experience an international component in their education. And yeah, this is just to mention a few of the projects that we have been working in. And there should be, EU VIP is there on the list, but the Pro VIP is not yet. I think I should add here a few more logos of projects that we have been working in together all over the years, addressing this topic. Okay. Just as a conclusion, I think I had 25 minutes to talk, and I'm just in time, I think. This is my very last slide. If you remember, my very first slide was that the learners are saying to us teachers, please challenge us. And I would like to close the circle and say, okay, learners, we respect you as human beings, as consumers in one or another way, but also as co-creators, as partners, as our drivers. So students, please challenge us. I know that there is probably no students in the room for this conference here, but I think that my message is if students are expecting from us different things and that we should introduce technology and do that in a proper way and help them to make the transition from their daily life where they are using this technology to their study life, so to say, where they also expect to use this kind of technologies, and they want to do that in a proper way and they are challenging us. I think that we could now say to the students as well, please keep on challenging us. You are important important for us as teachers, as supporters, support staff, I mean, in the university. If we, as one community, work together, I believe that we can change learning into all types of learning, including learning. And that is my message, I think, for today. Yeah.
I really want to thank Wim for his presentation. There are a lot of points interesting from my point of view. Starting also from the fact that the situation that I know from a university point of view is quite different. I come from a university in which we used to give a lecture quite in a traditional mode. I like particularly of Wim the concept of learning today. That is no more learning in presence or learning with the technology. It is learning and stop, because we live in a world in which ICT has a paramount role. And so we cannot imagine no more a university or a learning environment or a learning institution that cannot use or don't use such kind of instrumentation, tools, facility, and overall, how can I say, learning environment and social connection to teach and to learn. So I really want to stress on this point, and I want to ask him, in his situation in his university, which is the situation about courses? I mean, your colleague, teacher from University of Leuven, used to blend the courses, use technology in which percentage. Can you describe the situation and more? Are there regulations from your governance in order to establish which part of the course can run in a traditional mode and which part can run in a blended mode with the technologies? Or the teachers from your university are free to organize their teaching in the way they want? And finally, to use the technology is quite an effort from the point of view of the teacher. It is not so simple because we are not digital natives. So a teacher have to learn to use technology in order to do at the best their teaching. Have you provided an help for this teacher, an office that can help, or your institution think as institution to this problem, to this evolution, or each teacher is, how can I say, alone in order to improve his or her way of teaching? Maybe are a lot of questions together, but I really like from you a response, and above all to share with us the experience from your university. This is my question, and of course I wait questions from other invited speakers. Thank you very much, Wim.
Okay, thank you, Elena. I think you've got one of the points of my presentation very clear. But coming back to my own university, in the KU Leuven, it's so that all courses have a digital presence. It means that we do have a digital learning environment in which the students can find all their courses available. And in some cases, it's just, let's say, an information channel for students where they find all the, let's say, the learning objectives, the learning outcomes, all the material, PowerPoint slides or papers, articles. But sometimes the teachers are using the course, the digital version of the course, to a much larger extent, and they are supporting group work in the learning environment. They are supporting discussion fora in the learning environment. They are offering video material that students need to work with in the learning environment. They are providing practical quizzes or surveys or even sort of test exams that students could take. And sometimes teachers also use the digital learning environment for the assessment itself. So it's up to the teacher that is deciding, who is deciding in what way they are using the digital learning environment to support the students with the coursework. But all courses have at least a presence in the digital learning environment. And again, this is what students were asking us. Students at a certain moment had different sources of information. They had to go to the student secretariat, they had to look on the walls to find information about the courses, or they need to do or they need to go to the digital learning environment, and they were getting fed up with those different sources, channels of communication. And they were saying, we only want one environment in which we find everything, and that is our digital learning environment. So we decided to bring all courses in that digital learning environment, and teachers can then fill it in, and use it to their own insights. Having said that, your second question, how much is done in face-to-face and how much is done in the online world or in the digital world, again, this is up to the teachers or the teaching teams to decide how they, what kind of learning formats they are using in the course. If they prefer to give a good lecture and students accept that, then there is nothing wrong with this. And then there is only basic information in the digital learning environment. If the teacher says, oh, well, I think that project work is much more interesting in my course, and I can use the digital learning environment to support that project work, then it's up to him or her to organize that in the digital learning environment. So there is no regulation, no rules about how much contact hours we should have in the course. For instance, for my own course on video production here in the university, we give some lectures in the beginning of the semester, and then it's all group work. Students have to produce videos, and we do a lot of interactive exercises with them. There is not so much done in the digital learning environment, but we use it then to put our material available and to share the video products of our students so they can do some peer reviewing there. But that's all my decision. As a responsible, academic responsible for this course, I can decide to what extent I would like to see the students, work with the students in a face-to-face environment, and how I use the digital learning environment then to support the other activities. Your third question about teaching support or teacher support, that's actually the department I'm heading right now. The Department of Teaching and Learning is in charge of supporting the teachers. So yes, indeed, we cannot expect that all teachers are fully aware of all the new technologies and that they are all skilled in a professional way to use these new technologies. We try to have like a basic level of competence for all teachers, and that is included in, let's say, the basic training we give to all teachers in our university. But then you have champions that are using the technology to far much more extent than other teachers, and we need to help them so that they can really go with the newest technology and that they can explore the possibilities of this new technology. But we also have like a help desk system for teachers that really want to improve the quality of their teaching and learning, and that are willing to take some training or to use our equipment, semi-professional equipment, and just to transform their traditional way of teaching to a more modern way of teaching and learning. And we do that with individual trainings. We have an offer of trainings to the university community, and we also have on-demand possibilities. If you, as an individual teacher or as a group of teachers, a faculty, for instance, want to get trained, then we can talk about that as well. These are my answers.
Thank you very much, Wim. And of course, if there are questions from other participants, please, yours is the floor. Valentina, are you with us? Okay, sorry, Giovanni, please.
No. I have one question related to the different field of knowledge. Do you believe that you can use virtual environment for every kind of human knowledge? For example, I see that for people studying obviously computer science, informatics, and so on, it's quite easy to set up and also to learn with a virtual environment. Is quite. I think it's quite different for people, for example, working in the field of medicine, or I don't know exactly. In your experience, Wim, do you have a very broad field of application in the different field of knowledge, or it's very focused on only few topics?
Okay, thank you, Giovanni, for your interesting question. I can say we use these new technologies in almost every discipline in the university. You were referring, for instance, to the medical sciences. Well, of course, I would not like to be myself operated by a surgeon who has only done virtual.
Obviously.
On virtual patients, but on the other hand, I'm joking here, but we do have what is called a skills lab for medical doctors and nurses, for instance, and that is a virtual environment in which the students can actually practice certain skills. And before they go to the real environment, so to say, and whenever they have a need, for instance, to rehearse some skills, some practical skills, they can go to that skills lab and train themselves again in the methods and the ways of manipulating equipment and so on. So also there, it's again the mixture, the blend of some real practical face-to-face physical training and a virtual component. Maybe another example here is our medical doctors when they are graduated and work in the hospitals. They need to upgrade their knowledge all the time, and that is also they were one of the first, let's say, sort of target groups for video conferencing in our university. Just because they didn't want to come every time to Leuven. Although we are a small country, we are suffering quite a lot from traffic jams, and all those medical doctors, they didn't want to come together in one place to get their extra training. So we were using video conferencing already, I think, 12 years ago or 15 years ago, and now we are introducing podcasts there. We are introducing web lectures in their postgraduate training as well. Again, this is not a replacement for the, let's say, the practical skills they need to get. That is still done in a different way. But there are other examples in humanities, for instance. One of the nicest examples that we have on virtual mobility is a course in the Arts and Literature faculty together with different universities all over Europe, where students in different universities are taking a course on film and critical analysis of film, and that is media. It's part of the media studies, and it's very interesting to see how students from different countries with different languages and in different cultures, so to say, are working together and looking at each other's films and how they are analyzing and criticizing these films. So it's hard for me to say to find an area or a field in which technology cannot be used to support the teaching and learning. I think it's also part of the creativity of the teachers to find out how they could use a blend of different formats, including e-learning or virtual learning or whatever. Is that a sort of an answer to your question?
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?